So Brooke and Carly here. We've got J.M. Buckler for you. She's an Instagrammer and award-winning author of the Secret of Time series, which is available on Amazon and Audible. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend you checking it out. The Audible version is really good, and she narrated it herself, which is pretty dang cool. And on her Instagram, she does book reviews and like really cool pictures of books. And she also gives writing tips in her stories and in her IGTV videos. So check those out and follow her if you aren't already. So our mission is to help writers that are up and coming get the tools to be published and to be successful. And we really think that J.M. Buckler will help us do that. So my first question that I have for you is, how are you inspired to write the Secret of Time series?
It's a very long story, so I'll make it in a condensed version for you. I was experiencing a lot of inner struggles. I had woke up with the idea for the story in my mind. I saw the beginning and the end, but I had no idea how to fill in the gaps. A bunch of self-doubt came up of, you didn't graduate college, you're not a writer, you don't have a literature degree, you hated English class in high school, you can't do this. So I sat on that doubt for 4 years, in and out of like deadbeat jobs, trading dollars, or trading days for dollars, really searching for happiness outside of myself, which left me pretty miserable. And finally, my husband, he was the one who gave me the courage to just make that first keystroke. So I did, and it wasn't easy. I had no idea what I was doing. I Googled how to write a book. I didn't know if there was a special app or a software. I didn't have a writing community. I wasn't on Instagram yet. I didn't know any writers. I was as green as you could get. And then life happened. I got pregnant. I had horrible PTSD from my delivery, and I went into a very dark depression afterwards. And I stopped writing, and it got really, really bad. We moved from the Woodlands, Texas to Austin, Texas, thinking that would help run away from your problems. It didn't. They just followed me here. And I suddenly one night saw a void in the YA marketplace. And I realized there was a lot of great books, entertaining ones like the one we were speaking about. But some of these books are just an escape from reality. They don't leave the reader with like helpful takeaways or powerful lessons of how to face their own inner demons or see life differently, maybe see others with compassion. So I said, you know what? I bet I can do that. Like make almost a secret self-help book disguised as a YA sci-fi fantasy. And I'm a very spiritual person, and I kind of opened myself up that night to the universe, and I was like, you know, if this is something that I can do for the world, and let's get it done. And so I woke up the next day super motivated. I finished Secret of Time in 2 weeks, Stillness of Time in a month, and then Passage of Time in 13 days. And I just wrote them all back to back. And it was, yes, they were very rough, and they changed a lot from those rough drafts, but they were full books, you know, like starting at 90,000 words when I was done. And it was validation for me of, okay, no, your journey's just begun, but this is something you should possibly be doing. And the depression I was facing and the chronic illness I had been diagnosed with everything went away. And I realized later on, after working with my publicist and working with top doctors in the industry who study epigenetics, discovered that I was doing what's called expressive writing, and but I had a little twist on it, and that's why I teach writing as a tool for healing now, because I was having my protagonist go through very tough emotional things, and even though it's a fantasy story, it was very personal to me. Traumatic things that have happened to family members, friends, all of that I was getting out, and doing so allowed me to heal mentally, spiritually, physically. So that in a nutshell is how I started writing Seeker.
That's really cool. And honestly, I think that gives your writing a lot more power when it has your truth in it. You know what I mean? For sure. So how did you stay motivated to write so many books?
It was this almost like this crazed obsession that I have to get this out into the world, you know, and I've never worked that hard in my life, but it didn't feel like work. I had truly found my passion. So every morning, it was like Christmas morning. I'd wake up so excited, like run to my computer. I had an 18-month-old at the time, so I had to play mom all day. And then I put him to bed. I'd stay up till 2, 3 a.m. writing, you know, and it was constant. Now I did, you know, go from one extreme to the other where I became so focused on these books that everybody else, including my family, became on the back burner. So that was a whole other thing I had to face later on down the road when I hit the burnout. But yeah, it was that inspiration almost outside of myself. I felt like a conduit. Like it was just, I was getting these words down, and the lessons are very small at the beginning, about kind of how to handle bullying, some family drama, but they move so much. I talk about everything from domestic violence to sexual assault to rape to suicide to war. And the deeper I got with those struggles, the more inspired I was of like, wait, this is showing readers like everyone has a choice in life. And this is what happens when someone chooses that path, what can happen. And this is what happens when someone chooses that path. So it shows you the freedom of choice and, the different effects that it can have on your own life.
So do you think that writing that and getting it down on paper like really changed your outlook on everything that had happened?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure. Has it made being a parent like more gratifying?
Yes. All the, hey mom, hey mom, hey mom. When I was, really be into a scene. At first I was so irritated, and the mom guilt would come up of, why aren't you playing and why aren't you doing this? And then the other side of the coin is, well, he's seeing you as a woman doing it, like getting out there, following your dream, being, a creative and focusing on something. But it's a balance. And that's why I've noticed that all of those, hey mom, were, once again, it was almost the universe of saying, you got to take a break. You got to step away for a bit. So he's been my greatest distraction yet.
You guys' videos of unboxing are adorable. He's like so quick with his like comments. Like he is very witty.
I'm in trouble when he's older, because
It's awesome.
every day I'm like, oh boy, some of that, I'm like, I couldn't write that dialogue that he gives me sometimes.
They're so fun. Yeah, I definitely feel a lot of that pain myself as a working mom, like finding the time to write and then the time to spend time with your family and making sure that you're like meeting both.
Yes.
It's a tough struggle for sure. And I'm sure we're not the only ones that have felt that. So how did you come up with the world of Arunix?
Yeah, if you have any world building tips.
What is your world building process? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like I said, the idea for the story it came to mind when I woke up. It was just there, boom. But I have, for my entire life, had reoccurring dreams of locations that I've never visited, but I'll go to them constantly. And there's this mall I have visited since I was little, teeny tiny, like 7. And I always go to this mall in my dream. And when you walk outside the mall, there's 2 moons. There's always been 2 crescent moons in the sky. And I don't know if it was just subconsciously that kind of triggered it, but it all started with the eclipses, the lunar and solar eclipses in the book. It was kind of like it came like this, and then it went in for my world building. Like it started so far out, like in the galaxy, and then and zoned in. But I wanted to have kind of a play on, Arunix itself is such a beautiful, calm, peaceful place, but it's ruled by this horrible person. So I wanted to have that contrast, of like the grass looks like a fairway and it never grows any longer than this. And there's no bugs, there's no snakes, there's no predators, it's like this pristine, almost like a movie set, kind of creepy and quiet. It's so quiet and it's so beautiful, but here's this person that's making everyone's lives miserable. So I kind of wanted, like I said, to have a contrast between that of really letting Alara and Cyrus see how easy it is to fall into a trap and to follow a wolf in sheep's clothing, essentially. So I wanted them to have just this total kind of mind, of coming from Earth, this very loud and busy place, to just silent, technology. I love the idea of kind of not almost like you're going back in time, but you haven't, but the people there have the same intellect up to speed that we do here on Earth. So it just started for me with world building. It's always music. I never write anything down rarely ever. I go on walks, or I'm driving in my car, or I'm running and I'm listening to music, and it'll start with a scene, it'll start with dialogue, and then it kind of builds of like, oh my gosh, yeah, they went there, or they went here. maps are essential. This is, you can't see it, but that's a map for my new series back there. And having a map is so helpful for world building, even at the beginning, because it gives you an idea when you're writing of like, okay, they headed north, just for you, your readers might never know, but it's super helpful. Like, I know so much, I have so much information on my characters in my world that my readers will never know, but I needed to write and to really build that world. So that's my little tip and trick, is music, and let it just kind of, let it flow. Don't force it.
Yeah, for sure. So do you do the same thing for your characters?
Yes, characters are loud though. Mine are very, very loud. Once again, always music will trigger a scene. Um, for me, writing, my first series, I was a pantser, total pantser, but it was first person. And I feel that now that I have written in both, that first person is easier to be a pantser because you're just moving forward. If it's one, POV, you're just moving forward in time. Whereas right now I'm third person and I'm doing a time jump, from like present day to 2 weeks before present day, almost kind of like a Vicious with V. Schwab's book. And I have like 8 POVs. So it's a completely different way. So I have to be more of a planner with this and kind of see where it's going. But I just let the characters tell the story. I mean, I really just feel like I'm sitting here and they're telling it. I tell authors all the time, don't worry about it in your draft and in your rough draft. Like, that's just a rough draft just to get the story out. But your revisions, each time I do a round of revisions, I'm learning more about my characters. Like right now, I'm on my second round of revisions for my new book. And I laughed the other day. I was like, oh, I didn't know you didn't like that. Like it all starts to come together. I kind of tell people it's like chiseling, a marble sculpture. At first you're just trying to get the shape. And then like right now I'm really kind of cutting in and, oh, it looks like a person. And by the end, you're polishing that marble really nice.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any characters that you're like especially attached to?
Yes, I have a tattoo that has a bunch of birds leaving a quill.
Mm-hmm.
It's symbolic of how I leave a part of myself in each character, even the villains, and I tell this when I teach at a nonprofit organization that, everyone has struggles and everyone has had negative thoughts about someone or something, or someone's upset them and they've had thoughts like, oh, I don't really mean, I would never do that, but we're human and it's natural. And I've taken that and allowed my villains to, to that part of me necessarily, not that I'm a sadist by any means, but,
Mm-hmm.
certain things, people in the world, dictators have influenced different parts of characters. I'm not a patient person at all. So Alara's impatient definitely comes from me. There's a little bit of myself in everyone. I would say Alara for sure I have the most attachment to, just because I feel like personally we've gone on this journey together, and emotionally we're cut from the same cloth. The way she handles situations is exactly how I have, or how I would like to. I feel like a lot of times our characters become a lot stronger
Yeah.
we are right now, or who we would like to be.
Yeah. They learn a lot of the same lessons that you've learned in your own life.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that definitely makes them stronger for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like you need to love your villains as much as you love your protagonists. You know what I mean?
I have to. I have the most fun writing villain dialogue. I love it because that's not me. I'm not a hateful, mean, horrible person. And it's fun to get that out and to explore it. And sometimes it's tough. I can tell the days I'm in a villain's head, I'm a little more snappy and short with my family. And I have to tell them like, hey, I was writing so-and-so today. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay. They rub off on you.
Yeah, I kind of take on that character. I'm like, what? When they interrupt me, versus what is it? But I think that's normal, to have your characters.
So did you use a particular dictator to inspire Zenith?
Yes, but he will not be named because he's still alive. So
Okay.
I don't want to get a snake in my mailbox or anything,
Yeah. That's true. We don't want to get political. That's right.
So JM, we have just time for one more question. If you had like one tip for somebody who wanted to start writing to help them go through something that they're going through in their life, what would be like the one tip you'd tell them to start? Journaling or writing a story?
Yeah, set aside if they have. So are you saying if they have something going on personal in their life that they just write about?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a method for this. It's set aside 15 minutes a day. where it can be quiet time, where it's just you, where you're not going to have any interruptions, preferably not even any music on, because music can change your mood a lot in your writing. And when I teach writing as a tool for healing, this is what expressive writing is. Dr. James Pennebaker here at the University of Texas studied this for 30 years, and I got to do a talk with him, and it was fantastic. And what he recommends is take that 15 minutes, and it's important to set aside time for ourselves every day, because especially as parents, as moms, as different things, we tend to that mom guilt of I'll get to myself later, right? But for your mental health, it's so important to set aside that time. And what you do is think of it as an emotional journal. You can start with either whatever's coming up, if it's a trauma you want to revisit, or if you're frustration, we hold all these resentments in, like someone cut you off in traffic and you're upset about it. You're still holding that in throughout the day. And it's really good just to get it out. So you can start very basic with just your day, and not what you did, not a journal like I went to the grocery store today, but how did you feel when you went to the grocery store? Did anyone upset you? And you ask yourself questions like, why did I feel this way? And just like a stream of consciousness, anyone can do it. And that's why I call it the prescription you can write yourself, because it's free and it's been proven medically to help. You'll sleep better. A lot of times when we're lying in bed making that list in our head, like, I need to do this. If you get up, and he's done this in the study, if you get up and just write it down, you'll go right to sleep. It's just getting it out of your mind. So that allows you to, yes, get those emotions out. And why I decided to do something a little different was a lot of time trauma, and I work with a lot of people who've experienced sexual trauma. It's really hard for them to go back there and to talk about it. So what I have them do, and psychiatrists have approved this theory and our theory, this method, and they have used it in their own practices and say it works really well, is to create a character and get very descriptive. Who is the character? What do they look like? What's their name? It can be your alter ego. Let them go through the experience, and it takes the personalization away. So you can really get out those emotions, and you can have that character go through the exact situation, what you want it to do it to that person at the time, what happened to you at the time, what you want it to say. You can have conversations, and it has the same healing effect as using the word I. Okay. So it's a very powerful tool, and it's simple to do. A lot of people are like, I don't want to take the time to do it, but those who have, I've seen huge differences. So that's what I would recommend, is 15 minutes a day to start.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out the Secret of Time series, available on Amazon and Audible. And be sure to join us next week when we have JM talk about marketing strategies. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified when our next video is up. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.